You know that the largest country in the world is Russia. But if we cut Russia into two parts, European and ASEAN, we see what the deepest territory is. Russia is Siberia size 13,100,000 and without Siberia reservoirs such as oil, gas, Russia don't be powerful in the world. I'm thinking what happened in alternative Timoline Russia didn't coqest Siberia, and Siberia is an independent country or another country coqest Siberia. I talked to you in this video about the alternative history of Siberia. The Russian conquest of Siberia took place during 1580 to 1778. When the Khanate of Sibir became a loose political structure of vassalage that were being undermined by the activities of Russian explorers. The main reason for the annexation of Siberia appears to have been the richness of the country in furs. First said that Siberia is an independent country. Siberia would export natural resources such as oil and gas to be wealthy, but I thought that free Siberia would be a poor country because of endless freezing winters. As such, the most frosty place in Europe is Siberia, with temperatures that can dip below -60°C, Yakutsk. The massive territory and bad land use also cause awful logistic. Nature, landscapes, but uncomfortable place for live people. Also, because more people live in Siberia, there may be an ethnic problem. Ethnic groups such as Yakuts, Tuvans, and Altai who have different cultures, languages, and opinions. Who is the main ethnicity in Saderia? How are Siberia supposedly be wealthy to get way Norway, give control of resources to foreign companies? It is an unbelievable opiate because it is very hard to think that history saved the huge country in a saying, such as Siberia, because dangers on our land caused an uncomfortable situation for living people in this region, and easy to annex. European country. His second opiate is what the Qing dynasties first conquered Siberia. In this case, the Qing dynasty without industrialization Siberia is simply empty land where you can only build buildings, prisons, or take wood. However, if modern China owned Siberia, not only would China be the largest country but also the most powerful country in the world. Because China has more people, more powerful industries, and more Siberian natural resources. China would likely exploit Siberia's resources and establish economic dominance over the region. Natural resources like minerals, oil, and agricultural produce would be extracted and exported to China, benefiting the Chinese economy while potentially impacting the local population's access to their resources. Under Chinese rule, the Siberian society would go through socio-economic changes. As part of resource extraction or infrastructure projects, the local population may experience displacement or forced labor. Chinese businesses and settlers would probably move to Siberia as well, causing demographic changes and the emergence of Chinese-owned industries. Conflict and resistance. There may be local opposition to China's invasion of Siberia. In the course of the Siberians' resistance to the occupation and struggle for independence, nationalist movements, insurrections, or guerrilla warfare may take shape. These conflicts may lead to a protracted conflict between the locals and the Chinese occupying forces. In the third variant, what United Kingdom was coqest Siberia, to come back, the second variant UK would take Siberia after the First Opium War. England would take advantage of Siberia's resources to gain economic dominance in the area. Minerals, oil, and agricultural products would be mined and sold to England, which would help the English economy but may deprive the local populace of their natural resources. The conquest of Siberia by England would undoubtedly have geopolitical implications. It may strain relations between England and other nations, particularly those with historical ties to Siberia or an interest in opposing English expansionism. Diplomatic tensions, economic sanctions, or even military interventions could arise as a response to England's actions. As a colonizing power, England would likely invest in infrastructure development within Siberia. Roads, railways, ports, and other necessary facilities would be built to facilitate trade and transportation, primarily serving English interests. However, after WW2, the UK may give Siberia freedom or divest Saderia into some independent country. In WW2, Siberia could annex Japan's empire, which would help Japan win the war. At the last which amacked to Russia history if Russia didn't coqest Saderia. Russian borders would have been different if Saderia had not been conquered by the Russians. Saderia could have remained a sovereign nation or been ruled by another regional power. The Russian Empire, and later the Soviet Union, would have been different in size and shape. Influence on Central Asia. The lack of a Saderian conquest could have affected Russia's influence and presence in Central Asia. Russia's access to the region's resources, trade routes, and economic opportunities may have been hampered by the absence of a Saderian conquest. It might have changed the ways in which Russia and its neighbors trade and develop economically. Saderia's non-conquest would have altered history's narrative and public perception of Russian expansionism. It might have had an impact on how Russian history was perceived and comprehended, particularly in light of the country's imperial aspirations and interactions with its neighbors. Population density and cultural diversity in Saderia may have helped the region to forge its own unique identity. Without Russian influence, Saderia might have maintained its own language, traditions, and customs, possibly influencing the region's cultural landscape. Russia wouldn't be a powerful country in history without Saberia and could lose in wars such as Northern and WW2. To draw conclusions, Saberia has had a huge impact on Russia's history. Saderia has geopolitical influence and economic power and a durable land space, although it is a difficult place to live, and it has a larger ethnic group. He would be powerful if another country took over Saberia. Subscribe and like it very help improve content in this channel.